Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Plekenpol, and I am so glad that all of you are here this morning. We are in the conclusion of a three-part series called Teach Us to Pray. And the series started with a simple verse that I wanted to kind of wrap your heads around because the disciples would watch Jesus pray. And so Jesus was praying in a certain place. And then when he was done, one of his disciples said, "Lord, teach us to pray." Now, I always thought this was kind of interesting, is that the disciples never asked Jesus for, anything else. Like, for example, if it were me, I'd be like, "Jesus, okay, the walking on water thing, we got to get over that. Show me that again. All right, what do you do?" Or how about, Jesus, how about this one, when you can raise people from the dead? I'm all about learning that one. I want to get, because that's, I don't know. That's way more awesome. But simply teaching us to pray, what's the deal with that? Which made me think that then there is a right way to pray. Because haven't you heard this? Praying is just talking to God. Why make it so complicated? Well, apparently, you have to be taught to pray. And apparently, you can be doing it wrong, which I never really knew that you could be doing it wrong. So this was something that was really interesting to me, that praying, these guys were Jewish kids who grew up their whole lives, saying prayers, doing prayer. And so they go, "Jesus teaches to pray." And so Jesus, he gives them varsity prayer right off the bat. He says, "Listen, this is how it goes. This is what you say. Father," and the reason why he uses the word Father is it connotes two things: intimacy, authority. Now, I get it. A lot of us have screwed up dads, and so when you hear Father, you're like, checking out. No, it's not like your messed up dad. This is a perfect father who is the way that your dad should have been, only a whole bunch better. And if you had a great dad, he's even better than that. So he is a perfect father, intimacy, authority. Second thing, hallowed be your name. His name is hallowed or holy or set apart. And the thing is, a lot of times we don't know God's names, and his names are revealed all throughout Scripture. And so knowing his names rounds out his character, so we know that he's a healer, provider, sustainer. He's a refuge. He is the beginning and the end. He is our Redeemer. He is so much of who we are, and we need to know his name because that helps us to know his character, who we're addressing. And then we said, this part of his prayer, your kingdom come. And this is always hard because you know what we want to pray? My kingdom come, which is why we have Amazon Prime now. I want it now. We want our prayers, and we want our prayers answered. We want them now. And so when we go to God, there's this kind of oh yeah, you are the Father, the good Father. You are the perfect Father, and you know what I need even before I ask. Your kingdom come, all right? And that's a huge one to kind of overcome because we've got needs and we've got stuff. And that's why the next thing he says, give us each day our daily needs. And so we pray for our needs, not our greeds, because there's a lot of times we're asking for stuff that we don't necessarily need, but, we saw what somebody else had and, we want everyone to get by. We just don't want them to get by us. And so that's kind of how sometimes our prayer life can be. We don't want anyone to get by us. And then the next thing is this: and forgive us our sins. We said that this is not a salvation prayer, but rather it is a moment where we are reconnecting our relationship with our Father. Because when you have an intimate relationship with anybody, you sin against them. Who knew? I don't know. I have sinned against my wife. I know. Stay in your seats. My wife has sinned against me, and there have been moments where we've had to forgive one another. And shockingly enough, you have sinned against God. And even after you're saved, you still sin. And so this is kind of you clearing up the relationship with him, saying, hey, because if you let things fester, or you just don't talk about stuff with your wife or your spouse or the person that you live with, it gets weird, doesn't it? It's hey, and you just don't talk about it. You kind of, whatever. And that's a broken relationship. What God's saying is, let's talk about this. Let's bring up your stuff. I know that you're sinned. I'm not shocked. Oh my, you sinned? Who knew? He knows that you're coming to him as a sinner. And then, we ourselves forgive those who are indebted to us. So as you've been forgiven by the amazing grace of God, that you've believed that Jesus died on the cross for sins, rose from dead, you are sin-free. The punishment of hell is not for you. Now, go and forgive other people. And that's hard. Because it's hard. You've been hurt. We've been hurt. And people have screwed you over, and it's been you're wanting to, there's pain there. But if you've been forgiven, we so too need to forgive. Okay, and then the last part about this is lead us not to temptation. And if you're not really sure how to, what that means, right out the side, help me. Help. That's what that means. And so we go to God, and that's kind of like, that's our prayer. And so, and last week, we took the framework that Jesus gave us with this prayer, and then we learned this word. We learned, and this is like SAT word, this is a vocabulary word that everyone needs to know, it's in your Bible, and it's impudence, which just means shameless, bold. And we said that the reason God wants us to come to him shameless and bold is because that's how children come to their dads. Like Austin doesn't think twice about asking me for a sucker 1,000 times. And the illustration I gave you last week was, Sasha, President Obama's daughter, can come to him at any point in time and be like, Daddy, I want this. And he's going to be like, all right, no problem. Or he'll be like, you bet, honey, here's what we'll do. And like Secret Service people will come in, they'll make whatever need happen. And because there's a relationship there. If I go sneak into the president's Oval Office, like crawl on the floor and be like, surprise, I get shot. And we need to go to God with impudence and be like, God, adopt me. It's like going to the president, adopt me, surprise, here I am. That's weird. But that's the kind of impudence we come to God with. Now, we said that we need to come to God like that, and he answers prayer. And we've seen God, at this church, we've seen God answer prayer after prayer after prayer. And I want to introduce you to a guy, like how there's certain people, like if you are a fan of the NFL, you need to know who Roger Staubach is, right? You just need to know who that is. Like if you don't know who that is, then you're not really a fan. All right, if you're a Christian, you need to know who George Mueller is, all right? You just need to know who this guy is. This guy is like Hall of Fame worthy. This is like a prayer guy that you need to learn how this guy prayed. And so we're going to talk about him. In fact, this guy started an orphanage in Bristol, England, not by asking anybody for money. He didn't have a dime. All he did was start praying. He's like, God, if you're really God, then you're going to provide for this. I see there's needs here. I'm willing to take care of needs. Show me the money. All right, so he gets on his knees and he starts praying. And all of a sudden, like random stuff starts. People are like, hey, I felt I should give you $100. And he's like, thanks. Just weird stuff like that would happen. Okay, so at one point, this guy would have over 10,000 orphans that he took care of over his lifetime, 2,000 at one time. All right, so at the point when his orphanage had grown to 300, all right, so we're at 300, so it's like about like this. Like everyone's only the 300 orphans. They had like a house mom type person, and she comes to George Mueller and says, we have no food. What do we do? And he's like, have all the children sit at the table and tell them that the Lord will provide. And she's like, and so then he starts praying. Okay, and then this is just one particular time. Then all of a sudden, a knock on the door, and then he goes and answers, and it's a baker. He's like, oh my gosh, I was up all night last night. Like God was just on me. I don't know what it was. Like, do you need food? I baked 3 batches of bread. Do you need it? And he's like, absolutely. So they brought him food. Okay, moments later, a milk cart. Like, okay, back in the day, they didn't have milk trucks. They didn't have grocery stores, like the delivery guy would come by. Well, the milk cart broke down, like the wheel fell off in front of his house. The milkman comes up and is like, hey, we're going to have to throw away all this milk. Could you guys use it? I know it's weird, it's free. And he's like, yes, we can. And everybody was fed, and all the children had something to drink and something to eat that day. Now listen, it wasn't like gourmet, but did God answer prayer? Booyah, right? That's what this guy did. In fact, George Mueller, all right, over and over. In fact, he had 50,000 recorded prayers that God answered. he would write down every single one. He'd be like, God, I'm hungry. Boom, you fed us. Okay, you're like, all right, Chris, that would happen anyway. Oh, well, did you see that? They had no bread. It was over and over. Prayers would happen. He would record them, and he would just go to God and say, God, you're God. You said you provide. I'm trusting you. Do your thing. And that's how this guy built up something so powerful. And the reason he did it, this is one of those things, like when he wrote in a book later, that the kind of the purpose for this orphanage was this. I just wanted to read this to you because it was just kind of mind-blowing. It seemed to me best done, and he's talking about this showing, like encouraging Christians in their faith to really pray because there's really a God. It seemed to me best done by the establishing of an orphan house. It needed to be something which could be seen, even by the natural eye, meaning there's no way you can feed all those kids and all that need. In fact, at the time when he started this orphanage, there were 3,600 kids in orphanages at the time, okay, that they lost their mother and father. And there was over about 8,000 in jail that were under 8 for stealing and for being just naughty kids that got caught and they had no place to go. And then on top of that, more kids were just roaming the streets. So there was a huge need for this. Now, if I, a poor man, simply by prayer and faith, obtained without asking any individual ever, he didn't have a benefactor, the means for establishing and carrying on an orphan house, there would be something which, with the Lord's blessing, might be instrumental in strengthening the faith of the children of God, besides being a testimony to the consciences of the unconverted. So there'd be non-Christians. He was like, oh, they're going to love this one. I know they think we're crazy with Jesus, the sweet tattoos, sword coming back, judging the wicked people. I mean, like, they don't get that, but man, this is going to be funny to watch. Explain that. Boom. Being a testimony to the consciences of the unconverted of the reality of the things of God. This, then, was the primary reason for establishing the orphan house, was and still is that God might be magnified by the fact that the orphans under my care are provided with all they need only by prayer and faith, without anyone being asked by me or my fellow laborers, where it may be seen that God is faithful still and hears prayer still. And I want you guys this morning to kind of let that sink in. Don't lose heart. God still answers prayer. Now, as I was preparing this message this week, and it was like one of those things that took me like all week. I was like, it wouldn't come in. It came to me like last night. So you're getting like last night's kind of like thing. Because here's what I was going to do. Here's what I was going to preach, and this is kind of, I always preach this. I'm going to read this text for you, and I'm going to give you kind of what I was going to give you, right? And he told them a parable to the effect that they ought always to pray and not lose heart. By the way, we're in Luke chapter 18. If you don't have a Bible, raise your hand in the air, and a Bible will come to you. If you don't have a Bible at all, this is our gift to you. But if you need a Bible, Bibles are available. And if you don't, I want everyone to be looking in their Bible because I want you to read and you can write in it even if you're going to put it back. It's fine. So he told them a parable to the effect that they ought always to pray and not lose heart. He said, in a certain city, there was a judge who neither feared God nor respected man. And there was a widow in that city who kept coming to him and saying, give me justice against my adversary. For a while he refused, but afterward he said to himself, though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice so that she will not beat me down by her continual coming. And the Lord said, hear what the unrighteous judge says. And will not God give justice to his elect who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily. And so every time I've read this, I'd say, listen, all you got to do is you go to God over and over and over. You got to go to him, get annoying with God. Like, God wants you to be annoying. He wants you to be impudent. He wants you to kind of come to him, and he will answer your prayer. That was the way that I've always read this. And then I went to combat. So if you don't know that, I was a company commander in Iraq. Had about 100 guys, and we would go up and down the highway looking for bad guys, and we get shot at, blown up, the whole thing. And on one particular day, a car bomb hit directly one of my lieutenants. And I got into my tank, I raced out to the scene, and it was sort of chaotic, as you can kind of imagine a war zone being. My medic was working on Lieutenant Wallenweber, his name is Luke, and another lieutenant was out there with me, and he was in charge of the soldiers who were just kind of like staring, looking around, going like, what? And so there was this moment where I was like, man, I wanted to go over and just kind of like lay hands on the guy that needed to be prayed for, and like, God, do your thing, like show everybody how powerful you are. You can raise the dead, you can heal people, you can do it all. And then I had this lieutenant who was crying, and like he was, he's 22, and he's just like, what do I do? And so I said a quick prayer. I was like, God, save Luke. Please save him, just under my breath. And then I kind of grabbed the lieutenant. I was like, you need to get it together, brother. Come on. You got your men are staring at you. I need you to wipe the tears from your face, and we're going to go and search that building. I want you to lead them right now. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. And we go, and we just go. And we're kicking in doors, we're going house to house, and the whole time I'm being like, God, I hope you're doing something over there in that kid, but now I got to focus. And about 20 minutes later, over the radio, I get the call that Luke died. And the rest of that night, I was sitting on my cot, just kind of going over it again in my head, and I was so worried that maybe if I just prayed a little more, because it says, like if I was persistent enough, and I really got convicted. Maybe I should have said it out loud, a lot louder, so that God, you could have gotten more glory from it. But I didn't, did I? And I let him die like that. And you're like, okay, well, maybe that was war. I mean, you can expect that. You knew that going in, that there would be people who would die. I'm like, okay, maybe. When Adrian and I first came to this church, I was back in 2012. And we got here in February, and in May, we were pregnant. And on Mother's Day, I announced to everybody, I'm like, guess what? We're pregnant! Woo! And everyone clapped and cheered and gave Adrian high fives and slaps in the rear and all that, and it was awesome. And it was great. And so we went to the next little checkup thing that you have, and Dr. Irvin's like, I don't think this pregnancy is viable. I think we're going to have to terminate. I mean, it was all these sterile scientific words, and I'm like, we don't terminate in this league. We're going to pray. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm with tears in my eyes, and I go, Adrian, we're going to pray. This is not going to end. We're going to lift up God. We're going to have people pray. We're not going to let death defeat us. And we go back a week later, and when you get a sonogram, they put it on Adrian's tummy, and you're supposed to hear a whoom, 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 and that's the heartbeat. And so we put it on, and I'm I got my ears turn it up, turn it up. There was no heartbeat. And I was like, maybe I should have prayed longer. Or maybe I'm reading the scripture wrong. And I wanted to walk you through sort of the revelation that God has sort of given me through this, because we are not to lose heart. Jesus says the opening line, don't lose heart. But when you look around at this world, it's there's a lot to lose heart over. So what are you talking about, don't lose heart? Always pray, don't lose heart. And so I want us to learn what it is through God's word not to lose heart. Because I don't know if you've noticed, this world ain't perfect. And just because we live in Facebook world where everybody else's life is awesome, doesn't mean it actually is. So we're going to get into this. We're in Luke 18. It's on page 877. Here we go. Luke 18, verse 1. We're going to read this again with a proper interpretation. Here we go. So Jesus told a parable. And who did he tell? He told the disciples. The same guys that said, teach me to pray, or teach us to pray. He's telling these guys. And he told them a prayer to the effect that they ought always to pray and not lose heart. Which, when you break this down, this means this. People tend to lose heart when prayers aren't answered. There's a tendency when things don't go your way, when the cancer doesn't end, when the healing doesn't come, when you were praying that the marriage will be healed, and all of a sudden you're sitting with a divorce. When you've been praying for your child who's been run away from faith in God and all things good, you're like, God, what are you doing? Or how about this? I mean, listen, this world, we've been rocked by our world. Anytime the first world is attacked by third world, you're like, how is that even possible? What happened with this family? Nohemi, people called her Mimi Gonzalez, was a student just studying abroad in Paris, and she just went out for a fun night on the town and gets gunned down. Was somebody not praying enough? mean, people are praying now for Paris. How about before? What happened? Why should we be praying now when, God, you let this happen then? And he's saying, don't lose heart. Or how about this one? This happened this week too. Only it kind of may have been overshadowed by the fact of what happened in Paris. But a church planter and his wife planted a church in 2012 in Indianapolis. Resonate Church. A little growing little church. Same thing like this. They meet in a school. They do their thing. And then this week, Amanda, home alone with her 1-year-old, and she's pregnant. And some random guy walks in the house, takes a gun, blows her head off, and then just steals from the house. Like, what? Were they not praying? And can I just tell you why? When you hear that, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, what good did that do? God, what are you doing? And this is why I'm so grateful for God's word. I mean, this is why I love God's word. You want to know why I love God's word? Because it's so relevant. That even though stuff's written thousands of years ago, it's relevant. I want to show you a psalm. Now, every psalm, there's 150 psalms. Do you guys know that? And every psalm ends up with like, but God, you're good. Except for one. Psalm 88. You need to know Psalm 88. The psalmist ends the psalm with things are terrible. Look at this. The first 12 verses are kind of like along the same lines. You get the point as I read it. But I, O Lord, cry to you in the morning. My prayer comes before you. O Lord, why do you cast my soul away? Why do you hide your face from me? Afflicted and close to death from my youth up, I suffer your terrors. I'm helpless. Your wrath has swept over me. Your dreadful assaults destroy me. They surround me like a flood all day long. They close in on me together. You have caused my beloved and my friend. I want you to hear this. You've caused my beloved, the one whom I love, and my friend, the one whom I trusted that was there for me, to shun me. My companions have become darkness. If you have the NIV, it goes like this. Darkness is my only friend. Darkness is my only friend. The reason why I love God's word is it's real. It's not like the candy-coated, and everything's going to be okay. Although the reality, it is. But in the moment, we need someone who understands. This is why we love God, right? He is transcendent beyond space and time, but he intervenes. In fact, prayer is asking for heavenly intervention in an earthly situation. It's wrong. Things are broken here. And that is why Jesus came. Did you know that? The reason why Jesus came is because this is commonplace. Because things aren't right. And that's why I wanted us to kind of wrap our heads around that Jesus is saying there's going to be a point when your prayer is not going to be answered where there's going to be a tendency for you to lose heart. But I wanted to show you in this scripture kind of Jesus' point is you keep praying, you're going to get a yes. That's not what he's saying. Watch this. Well, I want to walk this through. Verse 2, chapter 11 of Luke. He said, Jesus saying, in a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor respected man. And there was a widow in that city who kept coming to him and saying, give me justice against my adversary. Now, I want you to pause. Women in this culture have no rights. Can't own property. I mean, if they could sell something, if they're a merchant, great, but you're not getting any help. The law doesn't apply to you because you're a woman. And so when this woman comes to this judge, it is her only hope because pretty much it's either this or the judge's response is pretty much, here's what I'll do for you. I'll give you a nice tip. If you get up really early and you find really the corner that's best right by the temple and you get there right before prayer time, people feel sorry for you and they might give you a quarter or two. That's the advice. It's like, That's your retirement plan. That's how you're going to get food every day. Have a nice day, widow. And so she's going to the only guy that can help him, and he does not care. For a while he refused, but afterward he said to himself, though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice. Why? So she will not beat me down with her continual coming. I want you to think about this. This is a judge who does not care, but he's terrified of going to work the next day because he's going to see her again. If she keeps coming one more time, I'm just going to lose my mind. Okay, it's kind of like this. Okay, you know how you have that friend who always wants to hang out, and you're like, no, I'm busy, and you've like thought of excuses, and you're like, no, I'm busy again, and then finally they won't stop asking to hang out, and you're like, fine, we'll hang out, and then like you make a day, and you hang out, and you do it. How many of you guys have that friend? All right, good. If you don't have that friend, most likely you are that friend. All right. That was for free. I'll keep moving. And the Lord said, hear what the unrighteous judge says, and will not God give justice to his elect who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily. So here's what he's saying. I want you to hear this. God is going to grant justice to his elect. Speedily. Now, you're like, okay, what's speedily in God's time? A day is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years like a day. That doesn't really count. That doesn't help me out very much. God grants justice to his elect speedily, which means he hears your prayer and he doesn't need you. Listen, he wants you to keep coming to him. But just because you keep coming to him doesn't mean you're going to change his mind. God is sovereign. He knows what you need even before you ask. He uses your prayer to activate his will. And so there's this constant tension. Does God really need my prayer? Yes! Does that mean God's going to change his mind? I don't know. But what it means is that he is a father and he knows best. Let me see if I can put it a different way. What do we deserve as human beings? We've rebelled against God, and what we deserve is hell. That's what we deserve. I mean, like, just think about all the people that you've thought about hurting, let alone the ones you actually have. And your thoughts have been dark. There is no righteous one among us. And that is rebellion against God, saying, I'm going to set up my kingdom, my way. You can listen, you do your thing, we just won't interact. You can't do that. God loves you. He has a plan. He designed you. And when you operate outside your design, that's sin and rebellion. And so the punishment for that, the rebellion of that, is he's got to put down the rebellion. And that's separation from him for eternity. So you don't want fair. You want Jesus. And Jesus, what he did is he went to the cross and he died on that cross for your sins and he rose from the dead so that he took your punishment in your place. Now watch, here's what the elect can expect from God's promises. Here's the Apostle Paul. He's writing to a Corinthian church. And he's kind of letting them know, like, listen, there are people here right now who are struggling with addiction. And you're saying, God, help me, I'm addicted, I'm broken, porn, drinking, drugs, stuff, help. And he says, no temptation has seized you or has overtaken you that is not common to man. But God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it. So listen, with your addiction, with the struggle where you're like, just God, take me now. This is so hard. I've ruined my life. I've ruined others' lives. I've broken things. God, help. He's saying, listen, you come to the church. Did you know that when you come to our elders, not one elder is going to be like, oh, sinner. Get your act together first. No, we're going to say, come on, let's go. Let's work through the brokenness. Let's work through the stuff of the addiction. Let's work through the stuff of the pain. We are willing to work with you and through. And we have got a plethora, a cornucopia, if we're in Thanksgiving time. Like, there is a lot of help for you to get over the relationship cycle that you keep going through, to get over the drinking that you can't, to get over the lust that you can't break free from. To get over the addiction to Facebook, which although you hate it, you can't stop looking at it and feeling horrific about yourself. No temptation has overtaken him but that which is common to man. And he's faithful. He'll provide a way out. Will you take it? Or how about this one? Here's Paul. Remember, this guy is like another Hall of Famer faith guy. He raised people from the dead. Like at one point, he's like preaching. He's like, "Yeah, Jesus is it." And they're like, "Stone you." Boom. And then drag his body outside the city gates. Like, "Now where's your God now?" And they go inside. He like wakes up. He's like, "What's up, everybody? He thought I was dead." That guy. And this is what his prayer was, right? This is Paul, a guy that, shipwrecked, and he's like, "Don't everybody worry, it's all gonna be cool." Like he prays, like earthquakes happen, jail cells open, and then he like uses that as an opportunity to lead people to Jesus. Okay, that kind of guy, he has an issue. So to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, when you have so much awesomeness happen to you over the course of time, there's a tendency like, "I'm awesome." You got some sickness? Now you don't. "A thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me." Now, let's just think about this. Who let Satan harass him? God did. "To keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me." And some people go, "Man, he had really bad eyesight and he wished he could read." I'm like, really? You think a guy who got stoned to death is really worried about I got really crappy eyesight, so that's my thorn in my flesh? Like, I bet it was something and the thing that's so cool about it, they don't even tell us what it is. We have no idea what his thorn in his flesh is. People just speculate. And so whatever your thorn in your flesh, Paul had it just as bad. Like he's pleading with God, "Take this from me, take this from me, take this from me. Why was I born like this? Come on, look at me, help me." He's been like you. And this is what God said to him. "But he said to me, my grace," no, you got to drink this in. "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Hear it. "Therefore I'll boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I'm content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, calamities, roommate marriage, loveless marriage, lonely singleness, cruddy job, broken family, parents that won't talk to me, children that are astray, children running away, children that won't hear and be disciplined and loved." That's the stuff we boast about. Because when we boast about that, Jesus gets bigger. "God, I want a kid! I want children!" And then you say, "His grace is sufficient for me." And then God does something. He starts to give you a joy. That's why Scripture, like Paul writes this, he says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." I say it again, rejoice. "With prayer and with thanksgiving, bring your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will fill your hearts and your minds in Christ." So that even though the pain is not healed in the moment, he's like, "I got something bigger. I got something better." Because here's the reality. You're praying for cancer to be healed. He's got, "I got something better, peace." Here's the reality. Let's just talk about cancer for a second. Let's say you beat cancer. That's going to give you 20 more years, 30 more years? You're still terminal. Everybody here is terminal. Let's say you've got the marriage that has no love. It's 50 years of pain? An eternity of greatness with God. And you can get peace now, even though everything is hard at home. The loneliness, oh man. people don't understand me. You've said it. You've kind of wrapped it around your head going, God, nobody understands me. God's like, I understand you. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, you boast about that because I'm enough. And you're like, but God, answer. What you're asking for, listen, let's be real. When you're asking for God to answer a prayer is to put a Band-Aid on something you need a heart transplant for. The world is broken. And you will be free from sin one day when Jesus comes back. And the reason why we pray and we do not lose heart is we're waiting and we're waiting. We're saying, come, Lord Jesus, because this world has nothing for me. But this world has everything. All that I could ever have and nothing that I need. You are everything. And you know how we know this? You know how ultimately that God saying no right now ultimately leads to this greater yes of his son coming is that his son, Jesus, got on his knees and said, Father, connoting intimacy and authority. And he said, on his knees, sweating drops of blood, God, let this cup pass from me. And what he was praying in that moment was, if there's any other way that we can redeem humanity, if there's any other way, let's do it that way. If there's like the ninefold path to enlightenment, let's do that. If we need to add a couple more folds, let's do 13-fold path. I don't know. How about it? If there's 5 pillars that people need to follow, let's do it that way. If people just need to suck it up and do good, let's get them on. Let's get a motivational pep talk every morning. Let's do that. And God said no to his son. Maybe Jesus didn't pray enough. Maybe Jesus should have prayed harder. Doesn't get much harder than drops of blood. Doesn't get more intense than that. And it's not like Jesus was like, no, okay, hold on. He comes back. He's like, okay, just kidding. You may have misheard me. I said, I don't want to do this. And then he goes back. And he comes back again. Please, any other way. All right. This is Jesus the Son talking God the Father. And God the Father says, no. No. You're going to endure hell so that I can have a relationship with the people you love. I want you to think about that. Because in your situation, you're crying out, God, please. And he's saying, don't lose heart. I'm coming. Because when Jesus, who knew no sin, became sin on your behalf so that you might be the righteousness of God, and you may not feel very righteous today. He said, I'm your righteousness. I died. I took on hell so you wouldn't have to, and there's freedom in that. The question becomes, can we just ask this one question? Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? When Jesus comes, will he find faith in you? Or is your faith wrapped in your circumstance? Is that your faith? Is your hope in things? Is your hope in Facebook? Is your hope in I need to have a certain standard of living and a certain way of life and a certain level of happiness in my marriage and a certain level of et cetera, and Jesus, you're not enough? Remember George Mueller? I think he had a lot of faith. Like people will go like, I need the gift of faith like you have. He's like, I don't got a gift of faith. I just take God on his word. You know what happened to him? 2 children born stillborn. A son died at 1 year old. He buried an adult daughter. He had 2 wives. Both died. 50,000 prayers answered for other people, for orphans. If it were me, I'd be like, what about me? What about my kids? My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. In fact, this is what George Mueller said in a book towards the end of his life about losing his wife. Said, I am myself am a poor, worthless sinner. Apart from Jesus, I got nothing. I've been saved by the blood of Christ. I do not live in sin. God is sovereign over life and death. If it is good for her, meaning his wife who had a rheumatic fever at the time, and for me, she will be restored again. If not, she won't. My heart is at rest. I'm satisfied with God. Don't lose heart. Jesus is coming. And if you're not a Christian here today, sounds so weird. You're like, what are you even talking about? Don't lose heart. Have you seen my life? And I'm saying there's something bigger, something better. And you know what? Our God is so powerful that he answers prayer to feed orphans out of nowhere. He gives us more than we need. He always provides. But sometimes tragedy strikes and it does not make sense. And we sit here and we look at God. Why? And he's saying, don't lose heart. I'm coming. I'm coming to restore this broken place. There's terrorism, there's divorce, there's broken homes, there's abuse, there's stuff that's wrong. And I'm going to fix it. Don't lose heart. I'm coming. Don't lose heart. I'm coming. And I need you to hear that. I need that to kind of settle in your soul. Don't lose heart. And one of the ways that we remember this and we take heart is we take communion. And what we do is we take bread. And we take this bread and we break it. And we take that bread and we dip it in the wine. The bread represents Jesus' body broken for you. And the wine represents his blood that was shed for you and for all people for the forgiveness of sin. And in this one moment, listen, we symbolize what Jesus did for us and where our hope is. And why we pray to a good God who is sovereign over all, who loves us, and we desperately pray to him saying, God, we take you at your word. You're our Redeemer, our provider, our healer, the beginning and the end, the creator, the restorer, our refuge. We need you. This is wine. This is grape juice. And in a moment, what you're going to do is our elders, our prayer team are going to be giving communion. What you're going to do is you're going to get up and you're going to go to your left, exit that row, and you're going to come down on the left side. You go to the left one, come down the left, come to the middle one. You guys come to the left, go to that one. And if you're a Christian here today, I want you to take the stuff that you've been praying to God about, the stuff that's on your heart, and I want you to bring it to him. And before you take communion, I want you to say, God, I trust you. You're a father. Thank you for sending your son to die in my place. Your grace is sufficient for me. I want you to pray that. Your grace is sufficient. I will not lose heart. If you're not a Christian here this morning, then communion's not your deal. Communion is for those who have gone and said, I believe, Jesus, that you died on the cross for my sin. I believe you rose from the dead, and that's where my hope lies. Now, your very first act as a Christian might be coming to take communion, and I encourage you to do that today. If you become a believer this morning, you get up, you come, and you remember this moment forever, and you take communion, you enjoy it with us. It's going to be a powerful time. And if there's anything that you're sort of wrestling with, you have on your little bulletin program, there's like a little prayer request. And I want you to write on those prayer requests, write whatever it is you need prayer about. And I want you to put it in the giving box on your way out. And there's going to be people who will be praying for you about that. But just take this time during this communion to reflect on where your heart is. Do you have a focus on Jesus or a focus on a circumstance? And let's pray and ask God to do something more than we could ever hope for or ask. Would you pray with me? Father, we know that you're a good God. We know that you've done more than we could ever hope for or ask. And Father, we're praying that this morning, as we take communion, you'd remind us that you are our hope and not this world. You remind us that things are just things and we can't take it with us to the grave. Lord, that you remind us that cancer will not have final say, that our health is not our God, but that you are our God. God, you would remind us that our children are in your power and that you are their Father too. You remind us of every single circumstance that you are Lord over it all, and we trust you. And Lord, even when circumstances look dire, we know that you're good. So Lord, I'm praying that somebody here, maybe for the first time, has recognized the circumstances aren't good and he needs help and she needs help. Lord, would you open up their mind to see that you sent your son Jesus to die on the cross for their sins and rose from the dead, and that they might come into eternal life and celebrate that. And God, for the rest of us who've been working and running out this journey, Lord, would you remind them of the hope they have in you and that they should not lose heart because you're coming. You're coming to fix this world. You're coming to make it all right. Please, God, help us to see that in spirit and truth.